Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever type of day you want to look at it. My name is Justin Rose. This is the WXYZ Sports Digital Lunch, as we do each and every Monday right here on WXYZ.com. Thanks for tuning in today. I got a special guest with me, Adam Strozynski from Detroit Sports Podcast.
Thanks
this guy, if there's somebody who knows how to do the internet podcasting and talking about sports and getting it out to the people, it's this guy, along with his buddy John Macaroon. They do a great job. Check them out on Twitter, Detroit Sports Podcast, and listen to them. They do a show. When's your show? Give yourself a plug.
We do the Doc and Jock Show. We've got 5 shows that run every week, so check us out. We're just kind of an alternate. Want to be something better than what you hear every day on the radio. So
okay.
Just a little bit something different for you.
So you're coming for my job.
All right, perfect. No.
Are you
hey, you're a good friend of the podcast. We're not doing that.
Are you good at coming up with names? Because we still need a name.
Yeah, that's true. We
still need a name.
Yeah, because he doesn't like Justin Time. I like Justin Time. Because he's, Maxwell, of course. Max White, our digital producers over here, he'll be chiming in with his thoughts as well. And we want to hear from you. That's basically what this whole idea is about, getting you involved in the discussion, because we don't have any video, we don't have any sweet sound bites. We have each other to talk to, and you. So hit us up on Twitter. I'm at JRoseWXYZ. Hit up WXYZ Detroit while you're on there. Adam's Adam RSTROZ on Twitter. And you can also make a quick phone call to the station, 248-356-0077. 248-356-0077. I'll throw that number out there right now on my Twitter line. So if you follow JRoseWXYZ, you can call in. All right, lots to talk about today, as there is every Monday, it seems. Another week and another Lions loss. It's becoming the norm, really, Adam. I think that
every Monday is like recuperation Monday. You need to sit there and somehow get over what you just witnessed. Even when they win ugly and it doesn't even look good. You think they're going to blow it, even in overtime. And then you have what you seen last night.
I mean,
awful.
That first quarter was fantastic. And Max, you told me last week that the Lions were going to lose. And I kind of scoffed at the idea of losing to the Vikings at home. And after the first quarter, I felt pretty confident about my pick. I picked the Lions to win, like 40-27. Mm-hmm. And for the first quarter, they looked like they could put up 40 points.
Absolutely.
What happened, Max? Tell me, because no one else is telling me.
It was just a breakdown, in my opinion. But here's a little funny tidbit from, I work on Sunday, so I'm here in the newsroom. I get very upset when I watch the Lions play. There's a lot of banging on the desk with my fist, and one of the girls who works here came over. She's like, "Did the Lions win? I didn't hear anything." And I'm like,
"Who was that?"
Anjana. She comes over and she's like, "I didn't hear you banging on your desk or anything. Did they win?" I'm like, "No, I've just given up on this team."
Yeah. Well,
Matthew Stafford falls down on 3rd down as he's about to get sacked, and it's just kind of laughable.
Well,
it's not mad.
You throw a 5-yard out to Eric Ebron on 3rd and 15.
And he runs out of bounds.
Now, the ball was going out of bounds, but that's the play that you call. You run a screen on 3rd and 18 and in the third quarter.
Was it 3rd and 13? You sit there and you run a sweep?
Yeah.
They're not going to get the yardage that you need.
The play calling.
You converted 1 3rd down.
Yeah, the play calling was dreadful. And once again, this goes back to the fans. And again, why is anyone paying any money to see this team play? Don't you have something better to do with your hard-earned American dollar than to go and give it to a team that doesn't care about you?
Well, and you're going to drop, but just alone, including tickets, parking, food, you're probably dropping it for a family of $400 to $500.
Yeah, it's easily $100 per person.
Being a Lions fan, it's like a sickness. It really is a disease. Like, you can't help yourself. You have to sit there and you have to go. You have to watch. I tried not watching all the time. I tried not watching every single game because I know what's going to happen. But you have to watch. You're compelled to.
But you're
sucked in.
You're sucked in. But when you say you're compelled to watch, like you have, I guess if you could,
maybe this week they'll get it right. Maybe this week they'll look like an actual NFL team.
Yeah.
Well, but here's the thing. Until they do that, why keep coming back? Because at this point it's 1-6. Your season's over. Don't mistake yourself. If the Lions go out and do something stupid and win like 6 games, that's dumb. You need to position yourself for the future right now.
Right.
And getting into the front of every round in the upcoming NFL draft is the way that you do that. You don't go out and you win 5 games and go, golly gee williker, guys, 6-10. here we go, 18th pick or the 8th pick overall. It's like, wait a second, why would you put yourself in a position to have to make one of those tweener decisions? Oh, do we want a skilled hybrid tight end wide receiver?
But even
no,
if that's
no,
the
no,
case,
no.
do you still feel confident with Martin Mayhew making that pick, or the people in this front office making these picks?
I don't.
I mean, they've botched it and fumbled it basically from day one.
We've got a good question here from Tamara. She says, was the Lions' loss more of a problem of scheme, not scheme, as I've earlier said, or were the players just that bad?
Well, here's the thing. And in the locker room after the game, I went and talked to the players, obviously getting sound. And again, I'm just tired of this team because there's just no more accountability. And everyone's like, well, we got to watch the tape. We got to watch the tape. That's what coaches tell you to say as a player when you don't want to say anything else. Well, we got to look at the film. Guys just got to execute. They got to do their jobs. It's like, I mean, come on, we know you have to do your job. Thanks for the answer. But, like, how about how you really feel? At one point, somebody asked Travis Swanson, is it hard to look back and see Matthew Stafford on the ground? And he said, well, I mean, it's our job to, protect him, so it's not, we got to just look at the film and see what went wrong. Travis Swanson, have a heartbeat and tell us that it is difficult when, how about a little passion? How about a little fire? And we had a great question from Chris Roberts, who just got in on Twitter. He said, does Jim Caldwell survive after London?
History would tell you yes.
Well, and what's the
because
point
this team has never made a reactionary move in their entire life. I mean, everything they sit there and do, it's weighted and it's measured, and they'll sit there and they'll do something probably after the season. But even then, I don't think that they're going to sit there and blow Jim Caldwell out. I think he'll sit there and he'll run out his contract because that's been the stamp of the Fords.
And
that's what they've done.
What's the point of firing a coach in the middle of the season when you've already won one?
I don't know. Look at the Miami Dolphins and what they just did, because Miami Dolphins fire Philbin and they can't get their offense going. They can't get their defense going. The tight ends coach takes over and they go and they absolutely dismantle Houston in their second game, but they won their first game after Philbin was fired too. So now the Dolphins are all of a sudden looking like a contender.
Yeah, but I think you just do it as a chance to, and I'm guessing it would be Terrell Austin that takes over, kind of see how he would do as a head coach and give him the test, and then, I mean, I could see it happening. I just don't, as Adam said, I just don't think it's going to happen. They've never done that. But, I mean, the only person I can think they've done that with is Matt Millen. They just canned him in the middle of the season, but that's
here's the thing, and I like Caldwell. I did. I loved what he did last year. And I think that, again, we're not seeing the problems with the Lions of, as much, I guess, those bad holding calls, those false starts. That there is more discipline on the team, and I think that that's one thing where they're losing these games. I mean, look, the Bat-Gate whole thing, that was a bad one. But, again, and we're going to talk about Caldwell in one of his maybe inept, to use a word from his own vocabulary, the Calvin Johnson not touchdown, the non-reviewed touchdown in the fourth quarter.
The messed up thing about that play, I have DVR, and I'm watching the game, and I have it DVRing, and I pause it at the point where the ball does cross over the goal line. And you mean to tell me that all the guys who are sitting up in the booth, you on the field, Calvin Johnson should have done something, but you hurry up, you run to the line to run a play? Did you think that was not going to be a call to catch? Did you think that he somehow bobbled it and they were going to sit there and take back those 7 or 8 yards that you just got on that Hail Mary throw because Matt Stafford his hand got hit as he was coming through? That whole play, it just screams of what has gone on this entire season. You have a nice move. I mean, you got lucky that Calvin caught that pass. Mm-hmm. He breaks the plane, and then you run up to the line because they spotted you at basically the half-yard line, and you hurry up and you run a play. Nobody challenges.
I think my buddy Tom Van Haren from ESPN, he's a recruiting analyst, he tweeted out the best tweet of the day yesterday. Credit to Jim Caldwell for hurrying up and running a play so that he couldn't review his own potential touchdown. And it was something along the lines of giving him false kudos for doing the wrong thing. But
it's basically that play right there encapsulated what we've gone through this entire season. Yeah. It was an almost touchdown. It probably was a touchdown. Like I said, I sat there, I stopped the DVR at the exact point when the ball crossed the plane.
But a ball, and this is something that I discussed with my roommate last night, it's a catch, not a run. So the rules of breaking the plane are different
Yeah.
with a catch and a run.
Right.
And so I think that might, I'm not defending it. I think they still should have challenged it. I mean, simply because, look, and then he goes and they don't kick the field goal on 4th down. Like, last week,
Right.
you did kick the field goal, and you got the ball back, and you proved to everybody, like, well, look at me. I did the right thing. I made the right play. This week, it was the same thing. 2 scores to win the game, and you can't get it in and 3 downs on the 1 foot line. That's your own fault.
Well, and so Caldwell's at the podium right now. From Dave Burkett, Caldwell on protection issues. Just rest assured it doesn't land on one person's shoulders. If it's one person, it's me. And then a couple of injury updates. Matthew Stafford's x-rays were negative on his hand, and Rashean Mathis passed the concussion test, so he does not have a concussion.
Well, Rashean Mathis, I mean, that guy is a dinosaur.
Yeah.
And I saw the hit. I mean, the poor guy's doing the best he can. But, I mean, he's chasing Adrian Peterson, who is going to bowl over you, and he led head first. I mean, that is just, my computer's frozen. I can't do anything today. I'm inept. I'm inept.
I love Jim Caldwell at the podium, too, because has any coach ever said more without absolutely saying anything? Like, if it's going to fall on one person, it's going to fall on, well, hey, no kidding, right?
Yeah.
You're the guy who put these other guys in place to do things, and they're all failing at their job.
Just take the Bill Belichick route if you're going to not answer questions. Just don't answer questions.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's trying to protect himself and his team from, but the thing is like, you have to have some accountability, and there is none with this team.
Right.
And that's the part for me that makes me just go, okay, you know what? If you know it's broken and you don't want to fix it, or you don't want to be accountable, because I mean, look, Golden Tate again. He's like, I don't know what's wrong with this team. We can't figure it out. We can't figure. DeAndre Levy actually was quoted by Kyle Meinke dropping an F-bomb afterwards, because he's like, we got to figure out why we keep blanking up, and that to me is somebody needs to be accountable, and somebody. I mean, I still don't know why Joe Lombardi still has his job.
That makes absolutely no sense. And I think a big issue with what the Lions are going through at this time, and this is what we were talking about before we started this. Up front, on both sides of the ball, they've lost way too much. You've got basically a brand new offensive line who's trying to gel, trying to figure it out. And you're going to have struggles with it. I mean, in yesterday's game, there were defenders coming through that were totally untouched. It legitimately, one play, it looked like Matt Stafford was running for his life as he was trying to break from the line to drop back.
Yeah.
As he just got swallowed up by 3 different defenders.
Yeah, it was an A-gap blitz that was literally. I mean, where did the center and the guard diverged in 2 different directions?
Exactly.
And
so
it's
you
funny.
have this going, and then same thing along the defensive line. You lost too many guys on that defensive line, and now you're sitting. You plugged it. You filled it up with talent that was less than what you had. So of course you're not going to be able to stop anybody, and that defense is going to. And look, the defense isn't doing a great job, but they're giving you a shot to win games, and that's all you can ask them to do is give you a shot to win games. I mean, they're not out there like last year. They won you, 10 games maybe?
Yeah.
You know, they were the reason that they were in the position that they were in. And now you sit there, you lose Ndamukong Suh, and you lose all these defensive tackles that you had, and you replace them with what? Haloti Ngata?
Well, and I thought they looked pretty good in the first quarter yesterday, going back to what you said at the start of the webcast. The defense looked good. They were getting to Teddy Bridgewater. You know, Adrian Peterson didn't do much in that first quarter, but then it's like the whole team fell apart, not just one side or the other. Everybody fell apart.
Yeah, and it was like when the train falls off the track and nobody can get it back on. It's funny, 4 yards. You can count how many yards the Lions had from the end of the first quarter until 3 minutes and 21 seconds left in the game.
And it's not like the Vikings
4
had defense either.
That's 4 yards. That's a missed. It's a miss. And look, the Lions look terrible, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, they couldn't move the ball." And yeah, but when you can't move the ball, you get yards, like some positive yards.
We've got a couple questions here from people watching. The first one is From Dave, any truth about the rumors that Dallas has interest in Stafford? It would be good for Detroit. Has this left the room? Because this has been brought up twice.
Do you remember
now.
when I brought that up in week 2?
Is this becoming a real thing now, or is this just...
Well, I read an interesting article. Dave, I think you're referring to the article that's saying that in 2018, Dallas may be looking for a replacement for Tony Romo, and Stafford would be 31, 32 years old at that time. And that would be a logical fit. It would be a homecoming for Stafford.
So if you look at it, it's a Jerry Jones type of guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's what you're referring to. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility in any stretch of the imagination. Because here's the stark reality of the whole thing. The Lions are not going to keep Stafford. They're going to have to draft a quarterback in the next year or two.
That's what common sense would say. But you got to remember who you're talking about. You're talking about the Lions.
And that's why I don't watch them anymore. I mean, I watch them clearly because I cover them, but I would rather rake my leaves.
Juicy news.
Yesterday it was a gorgeous day. Yesterday
it was beautiful.
I was walking into
Joe
Ford
Lombardi's
Field.
Out?
No,
Oh.
no. From Kyle
Your
Meineke.
eyes lit up so bright, so bright.
Like giant dinner plates.
It's not. I mean, it's not that juicy. But Caldwell presser cut off around 11 minutes. These things used to go 20 plus. Caldwell walked off during the last question.
He's been
What was the
lionized.
question?
I don't know.
He's been lionized.
Hold on, let me investigate.
Investigate that because that's bad.
If it's a simple question and he walks off from his own presser, you can say he's officially been lionized.
Well, and then we've got a couple other questions. One from Vinny. Love Adam in the weekly podcast. Wondering what Adam thinks about Stafford going forward. Should we re-sign him? Not. And from Ken, why has no one from the Lions coaching staff been fired yet?
Well, that's, I think, a question all of us want answered. Joe Lombardi, I think, would be the guy who would be on that first list to go. And you kind of see it every week with his play calling and his design. We talked about it a few minutes ago. I mean, it's 3rd and 13 and you're doing a toss sweep. And you're only going to get, unless that guy's going to force me to miss a tackle or two, there's no way he's
But that play call, that play call in the NFL is, I mean, that play call doesn't even work in high school.
No,
a lot of times, especially for 13 yards. That's and here's the whole thing. Well, most coordinators will always say like, well, we got to show different looks so that we can set things up for later on in the game.
Right.
No, you don't. We got a couple of tweets coming in here. Well, the second I want to answer the second one about why have none of the coaches been fired. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because right now the Lions, for whatever reason, somebody in that organization, whether it be Mayhew, Luand, they believe in this coaching staff. They believe in this coaching staff more than they believe in the players. And again, it goes back to anything. It's like playing chess or checkers. Those are
You're absolutely right.
pawns that you control, and if you put them in bad positions, you're going to lose. The coaches do that. I said it before we went on. This team has too much talent to not be this good, or to not be playing 500 ball right now. And that's not a stretch. This team could have won half of these games so far.
So basically what you're saying is they're loaded with talent, but this coaching staff can't get anything out of them. So there should be
coaches should be.
Yes, there should be moves made to replace coaches, and
Yeah.
it's not the Lions' way. That's the best way I think I can explain it. It's not the Lions' way. The Lions don't do things like this. They'll sit there and they'll ride out the bad times and hope for good times in the future. I mean, the thing is, the moment Jim Caldwell took this team to a playoff, he was on the hook now for the next 4 or 5 years. You can guarantee it, and they'll always go back to it and say, well, he got us to the playoffs that first year.
Well, that's why everyone continues to defend Matthew Stafford, because he threw for 5,000 yards in one season, and then everyone thinks that
it's garbage yardage, which blows my mind, but that's a different conversation for a different day.
Matt Derry, I love this, Mattdairy.
Oh, Matt Derry has a parody account?
I think he does. Matt Derry says, is Stafford off the hook because the O-line is terrible? Yes and no. Yesterday's game was not on Stafford by any means.
No.
Because it's funny. You look back at last week, and Stafford's the hero, the praised over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, da-da-da-da-da. Then all of a sudden this week, he can't get anything going because he's going backwards on his backside the whole time.
Did you guys notice, though, their 2 most successful drives, they sat there, and the way they picked up their large chunk plays, they rolled the pocket. There were a lot of them. There was moving around. Stafford was on the move. He'd sit there, he'd roll out, then he'd throw, and that's how they picked up their large yardage.
Well, and that could be
know that the O-line's garbage. You know that it's struggling.
But wait.
So roll the pocket.
The first
moving.
quarter, there were people, colleagues of mine, tweeting how great the offensive line was playing. And they were. The protection was there, as you're saying, because they rolled out the pocket. They tried to change things up. They kept Minnesota on their toes. That was great. So the Lions knew going into the game. They had a great scheme. They had a great. I make fun of them for that word all the time. They had a great game plan going in. Here's the problem, and here's where the game was lost. Minnesota said, okay, we got to stop them from doing this, and they did.
So they got.
And the Lions said, well, we're going to keep doing the thing that was working before.
That's another problem with this coaching.
And we're gonna just that worked before. Why? If you execute your blocks and you do these, it's like no. When the changes are made and they're recognizing it, you go to something else. You find a different way to do it, and they didn't. Well, and I put this on the coaches. We just got who's responsible for offensive line schemes. It was so bad, it was embarrassing. That was from Chris Roberts.
Like going back to what Adam said about the big plays, that was sort of what happened last week against Chicago too. You had a couple bombs to Calvin where Stafford got out of the pocket and was running around and just heaved it up and let Calvin do what Calvin does.
I mean, Calvin is still.
It's not offense, and that's
backyard.
It's backyard football.
No,
and if that's the only thing that this team can do moving forward, it's.
But here's the thing: you have a quarterback who has a gun for an arm, right? It's one of the things that's why you drafted him. That's what you were sold on with him, because he has bad footwork, and he never really won anything in college. So you drafted him because of his arm. You brought him here because of that. You have a wide receiver, even though he's advanced in his age, he went up yesterday and caught a ball between 3 defenders again. So if your playbook is backyard football and that's the way that you're going to win games, then just go win games that way.
Yeah.
It's all about W's over L's, and you're not putting up any W's.
Yeah, but Calvin's going to get killed. I mean, that's the reason he's been injured so much, is because he's just, big guys fall hard, but they're going to keep heaving the ball up to him. He's going to get killed out there, and he's going to be out, and then suddenly there's just nothing.
All right, we're going to do about another 8 minutes of Lions talk. Then we're going to switch gears into the college game. I have a very interesting scenario for MSU fans, so you guys are going to want to stick around for that. 248-356-0077. Like I said, about 10 more minutes on the Lions. Then we're going to switch gears over to Michigan State. I still want. Apparently, Caldwell, just as Max said, walked off of his press conference.
Yeah, I'm about to update. Apparently, one sec, per Josh Katzenstein. Hold on. Sorry. Dead air. Not good.
Thanks for announcing that.
Jim Caldwell back to taking, this was 6 minutes ago, Jim Caldwell back to taking the PR boss's, quote, couple more questions suggestion, literally. So I think he might have came back and taken a few, but I haven't seen any other tweets from Katz, so maybe not.
So he did come back out. Jordan Erickson, I want to give her a shout out for tweeting in. She said, are you guys worried that the players have given up? Golden Tate looked like he alligator-armed a catch. My fear is that the team has already checked out on the coaching staff weeks ago when they were 0-5. The last week's win, while it was like Band-Aid over a bullet hole, that feels nice.
I think before that Seattle game, most of those guys had started to lose interest. You could almost, you can basically read what's going on in Golden Tate's mind just by his facial expressions. When he's on the field, you can tell that either he's totally engaged and he's having a hell of a game, or he's totally disengaged and he's just somewhere else.
Here's this, and this is what's so funny. The Lions official website or Twitter just said, Hetty Bo says Lions aren't ready to give up the fight, and I'm sure that article is
don't worry, that's
a very positive spun article into the reason that this team isn't done fighting and
that's a whole different topic too. The team having their own writers, I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah, well,
there's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, look,
that's their PR.
That's where this business is going in to a certain degree, the access and the ability that they have. But that's another story for another day.
Sorry.
Jeremy got in with what do you think about Golden Tate yesterday? Only 2 catches. Why can't he get the ball? Honestly, Jeremy, I think a lot of that had to do with simply the first quarter was he was more of a decoy, if you will. Like the people, they knew that they were going to cover him, and that's why Eric Ebron slipped through on that great wheel route on the outside, and it's the same thing why Calvin was open. Tate's the over-the-middle guy, and when teams try to focus on the middle of the field and stopping that's what opens up the outside. When teams shut down the outside, that's when Golden Tate has 15 catches or 20 targets and stuff like that. So that was more of not a Golden Tate thing, not a coach's problem. You got to take what the defense gives you. And Lance Moore had a great week last week, 0 catches. I don't even know if he had a target.
No, he did.
He had one target?
He skipped the ball to him. It was,
okay.
It was at the end of the game there.
So
I think it was like 13 or 4th and 13.
This is a garbage target then.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was like the only open guy.
Notorious Bob. Adam, do you believe if the Lions were to fire Lombardi that it would be a step in the right direction, and should Caldwell be next?
Well, you got to read that as Notorious B.O.B. That's how we sent the question in.
Yeah, I think that's.
Thanks, Lyle.
I think that's the move there. I think you have to get rid of Lombardi, and I really feel like with Lombardi, a lot of his scheme, he gets it from like a high school playbook. Like there's nothing sophisticated about what he's trying to run, and the play calls that he calls, they're not good.
But the thing is like everyone's caught up with that offense. That scheme, that New Orleans. Why is New Orleans struggling on offense? Is it because of their quarterback, Drew Brees, who everyone thought was the greatest invention since sliced bread? No, it's because that offense and that system is not. It's the game is caught up to that. For one time in my life,
it was gimmicky.
Yes,
and it worked.
Right,
and it worked really well.
But that's the
for
thing.
Like
for
5
once
years.
in my life, I'd like to have the Lions come up with something gimmicky that works.
Works, yeah.
Why is Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots so successful? Is because people can't emulate that offense easily. Because it's a hard thing to do.
And he changes it every single week.
Oh, Abe from Southfield.
I was wondering when Abe was going to call in.
Heck yeah, what's up, Abe?
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, you working hard today? How's it working?
Yes.
Well, that's not a question.
I'm just preparing for tomorrow night. I'm getting into a mental state.
Tomorrow night? What's tomorrow night?
The World Series.
Oh, baseball? Come on. Talking about football here, Abe.
Hey, the Jets played a good game yesterday.
JETS, Jets. Yeah, they Jets themselves at the end of the game. They recovered that onside kick. You see that?
No, I didn't.
Oh my gosh, they kick a field goal
Through the legs.
Yeah, they kick a field goal, so they're down by 7. They onside kick it and they recover it, and then they Jets themselves. So either here or there. What's up, babe?
So with the Lions, because that's what you want to talk about. The offensive line is in absolute shambles. I don't even consider the right tackle a player on the field. I think they only play with 4 offensive linemen. And the problem is their left tackle, who's supposed to be your best offensive lineman, is a left guard, and he's playing left tackle. They got to look heavy into the draft for next year. We all know they're going to be picking early. Ronnie Staley out of Notre Dame is an absolute monster, and they're going to do what the Lions do and pass over him for, I don't know, another receiver.
Oh, they better not.
Well, we know it's going to happen.
No, I know. I hear what you're saying, and look, left tackle is a position that clearly, like, a high school, if you look at the best high school teams in the state, it's always because they have a great left tackle. Yes. It's just something about that position that can make or break your team. It's true. It's one of those rare positions, and the Lions have failed to address that as a critical portion of need.
Your whole offense runs through. You can say you run through your quarterback all you want, but you need your quarterback to have time to throw the ball, and that starts with your left tackle. And you need a run game for your quarterback to have, open it up in the offense, and that starts through your left tackle and the running game.
Hey, can I ask you this question? Why do you watch the Lions?
I don't. I watch the Jets.
Then how do you know so much about the Lions, my man?
I watch plenty of football. Sunday night I'll go back. I'll rewatch games.
Okay.
On some websites I don't want to talk about.
Uh-oh. Pirate.
Yeah.
You're a pirate, Abe.
No, I'm not from Pittsburgh. Oh, what up?
That was a good one.
I was actually working on it.
Well, honestly, I ask
no,
people.
Really, I do watch the Lions games because I know the market I'm in, and that's what people want to talk about here. So I watch every snap of every game.
Yeah.
And it's pathetic. It really, you watch them, they look like they're down. They look like they don't want to be there. Their whole thought process is, okay, maybe next year we better. This season, it just looks like they've completely given up.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to have to see. They're going to take a long road trip to London, and they're going to have to play a team that's also looking to be a little bit desperate here. We'll see who can out-desperate the other team as they play Kansas City. Abe, thanks so much for the call. As always, buddy, we'll probably talk to you next week.
Have a good one.
So, yeah.
Going to London, like you said, you're playing a desperate Kansas City team who just reeled off a nice win against a little bit of a beat-up Pittsburgh Steelers team. So if the Lions don't get a win against Kansas City, it would be nice. It would be nice for them to take that bye week and then to maybe address some in-house issues. That being said, I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know how much longer, though, Joe Lombardi can keep calling plays. It doesn't make sense to me. And, I know that Caldwell's come out and he said, it's all about execution. The plays are the right calls. It's just about we're not executing them right. I don't see that. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think the way that this organization is going right now, it's not working. It's absolutely not working.
Yep. All right. Well, you know what else isn't working? Talking about the Lions, because it's just giving me an ulcer. We're going to change gears now for the next half an hour. We're going to talk about Michigan State and Michigan moving forward. Obviously, we want to get you involved as well, so I'm going to throw out the phone number once again, 248-356-0077, 248-356-0077. Follow us on Twitter, JRose WXYZ, Max White WXYZ, and ADAMRSTROZ.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. Get that one down. Follow Adam here. He's from Detroit Sports Podcast. They're on Twitter as well, Detroit Sports Podcast. And you can catch him a couple days a week, 5 days a week, you said?
You can catch my show, the Doc and Jock Show, every Thursday. And then we've got 5 other shows that run all week long.
So, yeah, they do it right. They do it right. Thanks for spending some time with us today. All right, so Michigan State hosts Indiana in a game that I didn't watch it on TV. I was there, but I heard the announcing was terrible. Max, did you hear anything about that?
I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't watch the game. Didn't watch
Yeah,
much of the
course you
game.
didn't.
What was I doing Saturday at 3:30?
Working.
Max, are you a Michigan fan? Or are you
I am a Michigan fan, but I do watch Michigan State. I watch Michigan State.
I watched the game.
Oh, you know what? We had some weather coming in that I was worried about, and then I had something else.
Okay, these are all excuses. Well, I was at the game, and I apparently
were you in the downpour?
I was in the press box section. I was safe, yeah. But look, fourth quarter they outscored them 24-0. It was a close game, 2-point game. But as we've seen with this Michigan State team, they're not world beaters. They're not going to be ones that
they don't win pretty.
They don't win pretty, but they win.
That's right.
And you can't say that for Utah this week.
That's right.
You can't say that for some other teams that have losses. If you lose, you lose. If you win, you win. If Michigan State is 12-0, 13-0 after a Big Ten championship game, win, and everyone else has one loss, how do you not put them in the college football playoff? I mean, that's the thing. It's like if Michigan State loses, though, then you can say, okay, are there teams with other resumes out there with one loss that are better? And yes, you will have answers to that.
Michigan State's in a great spot right now, though. You're headed into the bye week, so you can get healthy and get that O-line a little bit healthier. That secondary gets another week to kind of work on some things and maybe start to gel a little bit more and kind of get back to playing that Michigan State style of defense that they've been known for. And then you come back after the bye and your destiny is in your own hands.
Yep. You
hold the keys to where you want to go.
Exactly.
If you handle your schedule and you win, you're in. That's it. You don't have to worry about anything else. We don't have to have a conversation about, oh, they're going to get jobbed, they're not going to get in, they're going to be screwed because there's this media bias against MSU. We don't have to have this conversation. Win and you're in. It doesn't matter how you win. I don't care if you win every game by 1 point.
Exactly.
Win and you're in.
Yeah, that's my point.
And that's what I talked to you about yesterday before the 7 Sports Cave, which airs every Sunday at 11 a.m.
Good plug.
It's going to come down to November 21st when Michigan plays State plays Ohio State. The winner of that game is going to go to the Big Ten Championship, is going to beat Iowa, and then is going to go to the college football playoff. If Ohio State wins, probably is the number 1 seed. If Michigan State wins, would you put Michigan State as the number 1 seed if they beat Ohio State?
No.
I probably as a 3 seed, I would guess.
They would have
a
to.
2 seed.
Here's the thing: Well, first of all, you got to beat Penn State and you got to beat Iowa in the Big Ten championship game. But if they go in undefeated, and depending on how everything else falls, otherwise they could, in retrospect, be the number 1 seed. But here's the thing about the seeding. It's just like the NCAA March Madness tournament. I don't care if I'm a number 1 seed or a number 9 seed. I want the matchup that goes good for my team.
Yeah.
And this is the question I'm about to pose, which leads me into my next topic. Do you have something? This is always I have something to say. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say it really depends. There are people ahead of them in the standings right now where they've got to play each other. So TCU and Baylor are going to play each other.
Yep.
And one of those teams is going to fall because somebody's going to get knocked out there. So if Baylor loses, I don't see TCU rising up to being a number 1. If Michigan State beats Ohio State, I think there's a possibility that they could, depending on how they win. It's all about how you win, which is, I think, really kind of finicky and weird. So
no, to rephrase that, it's all about winning, and then 1B is it's about how you win.
Yeah.
Like you got to get the win first,
Right.
and then because here's the question that I have to pose. All right, what's more successful for Michigan State? Look, and I'm only looking at it from this perspective. We know what this team is pretty much by now because it's a weak secondary, a young secondary, a defensive front that's very good, linebacking core that's good and bad depending on the day. That's the defense. Offensively, you have a great quarterback and you have a special wide receiver and a pretty good offensive line when it is healthy, if it is healthy. Here's my 2 scenarios, and you get to choose which side of the fence you're on. What's more successful to MSU's program success with this particular team? Lose to Ohio State, go to the Rose Bowl, and beat a Stanford or a UCLA or a Cal team or one of those teams from the Pac-12 that's going to be in the top 10. So it'll be a top 10 ranking. It'll be like a 7 versus 9, 5, whatever. Win that game. So I'm guaranteeing you a 12-1 season with a Rose Bowl championship. Or would you rather have them beat Ohio State, go and win the Big Ten title game, get into the college football playoff, and play Baylor or TCU and get embarrassed on the national stage? What is a better ending to the season if you had those 2 scenarios?
I don't think this is going to make a lot of Michigan State fans happy, but expectations have changed. You know, if this was a Michigan State team that was, 5-6 years ago before Mark Antonio took over, I would say the Rose Bowl win would be the thing to do. But at this point, it's all about making that playoff. If you make that playoff, you have a shot to win. It just like you said with the NCAA tourney, right? You've got to get in. You get in, you've got a shot. You've seen it time and time again. But I think if you get in and you get embarrassed, you at least got in. You got there. You won the Big Ten championship. You did what you were supposed to do. The goals are set early on in the season by Mark Antonio. It's win the Big Ten championship and then go from there. So you got into the playoff. That was your job.
Yeah, but then
you get embarrassed. You get embarrassed.
But then you have to deal with the fact that, especially if it's a fluky win, not a fluky win, but like a 27, 25, 24 win over Ohio State, then suddenly you're dealing with everybody being like, oh, Ohio State lost this one game. I think Ohio State's still the better team. Ohio State got jobbed. They should have been in the playoff. Look what happened when Michigan State got on the big stage and lost.
Over the last
I agree.
3 years, how many games have Ohio State lost? How many games?
One.
Yeah.
To who?
Michigan State.
That's right. So
I
you can
agree
sit
with
there
you.
And you can be the dagger again
to
those guys.
Well, and I guess back to part of my, I'm talking about more getting to the college football
for the
playoff.
program? Is this for the program?
Because look, the narrative around Michigan at least is that Michigan is back. The University of Michigan is back, and that Michigan State's window has closed. No matter what anybody says, even though they beat him this year. And then there will be the people who say it was a fluky play or a fluky,
well,
and it was.
It
was. They still beat him. They beat him. But at the same time, everyone's saying, well, that won't ever happen again because Michigan will be up by 12 scores, and the Michigan State game won't even matter anymore because that's what the general narrative is. So to keep the progress of the program rolling, I just think ending the season on an upkick and another, elite status. The Rose Bowl is still elite in my mind, but you're right. The college football playoff's the elite of the elite.
Well, and that's the goal. Even if you get in, and I agree with what Adam said. I think it's better for Michigan State and better for the program if you get into the college football playoff and get embarrassed. It's better for recruiting. Be like, hey, this year, guess where we were? Top 4 team in the college football playoff fighting for a national championship. Yeah, it's great if you say Rose Bowl win, but it's a New Year's 6 bowl game. What is that? it means you were outside of the top 14. It means you weren't good enough.
Anymore, the New Year's 6 bowl games are like are like the pre-BCS, or when the BCS was in, it was like the pre. It was like
the December 28th bowl.
No,
game.
it was the Capital One Bowl.
Yeah,
like it was like a good bowl. Sure, the Capital One Bowl is a great bowl, but if you're not in the BCS, no one really cares about the Capital One Bowl. Right. Now it's if you're not in the college football playoff, no one cares that if you're in the Rose Bowl, and it's like wow, how things have changed.
The Rose Bowl, I think, is still it's prestigious, especially in and around these parts. If you're in Big Ten country, you say the Rose Bowl, everybody basically gets down on one knee and genuflects, which is kind of the way it is. So I think you're right. If they made it to the Rose Bowl and they won and they handled their business there, that's great. But the goals and the expectations have changed so much for this program in such a short amount of time that I think you have to get to the playoff. And even if you get it handed to you, you still got there. You can still say, hey, we got there, we did this. Our program is taking another step forward, and another step forward. And that's basically where you're going. And I don't think, I'm probably the biggest U of M fan you'll meet. And I don't think that MSU's window's closing. I think the Big Ten is going to rise up, and it's going to be on par with the SEC is.
It'll be to the point where a loss to Michigan in October for Michigan State and a win over Ohio State later in the year will keep them in the top 10 or around. You look at like how LSU and Auburn seemed, and Ole Miss even for a certain degree. You know, they were the cream of the crop early. They lost a couple games. They won a game. Now they're climbing back up, and they won't make the football playoff discussion. But
Alabama, not Auburn. Well, in LSU,
I think Auburn did the same thing. Yeah. I'm just saying it's so incestual down there that like they're so all ranked so highly and so good that if you lose a 4-8 matchup and then you maybe lose a 10-12 matchup, you can still climb back by beating more teams. Yeah, so that's why it's important for Penn State to get it figured out. So it's important for Nebraska to turn around. So it's important for Wisconsin to get better because all of these programs need to be good so that when you do lose, it's like, hey, the Big Ten is so tough. Right now, we say the Big Ten stuff. It's not that tough. For Ohio State, for Michigan State and Ohio State,
right
it's
now,
not that tough.
No.
But I mean, look, Michigan's better.
Now, I think it's
especially the Big Ten West.
2 years from now, it's going to be a lot better because you're going to have a three-headed monster in the East.
Four-headed if Penn State can continue to do anything.
It depends on what James Franklin can kind of get figured out there. But we know. I think for sure we're going to have a three-headed monster because Urban's not going anywhere, Mark Antonio's not going anywhere, and I don't think Jim Harbaugh's going anywhere for a long time. And those programs look like, right now, they're the cream of the crop. So if we can get the West figured out and you get at least 2 or 3 decent programs in the West that sit there and go neck and neck, it's going to be hard for you to leave the Big Ten out of anything ever.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem that seems like college football playoffs
and then now with
is running into.
The SEC isn't as dominant as it was 2 to 3 years ago. They're still great. They're still the SEC, but you don't have a team coming out of there, like in Alabama every year where it was like, oh, Alabama's going to be favored, like they were favored for 44 straight games.
Yeah.
And the SEC is almost going through the same problem that the Big Ten is. We have the Big Ten West sucks.
Yeah, they have
Iowa 12-0. The SEC East, in the SEC West you have Alabama, you have LSU, Texas A&M. Actually, I think Texas A&M might be in the East because they were added late.
Yeah,
it's weird. Mizzou is in the East too, but Ole Miss. I mean, you have 3 to 4 power teams, and if Auburn can get it figured out, 5 in the SEC West, and you have 2 power teams in the Big Ten East. In the next year or 2, 3 power teams in the Big Ten East, and I think it is good if the Big Ten West gets everything figured out. And suddenly, I was down in Auburn last year, and they talk crap about the Big Ten.
Oh, of course.
But, if the Big Ten gets it figured out, they're still going to talk crap about the Big Ten, but they're not going to have anything to base it on.
Well, that's why we got a couple of comments in here. Julia said, will Michigan State have a chance to beat Ohio State? I was confident, but JT Barrett looks awesome. And then from Alexandria, is Adam over the fact U of M lost to MSU? Go green, go white. Little personal barb in there from that one. Back to the first question. Look, I was talking with Rob Sims yesterday, former Detroit Lion, former Buckeye. He was on the Suburban 47 Sports Cave, which airs on Sundays at 11 a.m.
Another plug.
Another little one. But he said, look, Ohio State's good, but they're beatable. They're very beatable. They haven't played anybody. They literally haven't played anybody.
Yeah.
And And here's where most Ohio State fans, well, you guys struggled to beat Rutgers on the road. They could have beaten you on the road at the same place where Ohio State just went in on a night game, just like Michigan State did, and blew them out of the water.
The transferable property doesn't really work.
Yeah,
well, hey,
no.
Northern Illinois. Is that all Michigan State fans have to say? Northern Illinois was at Ohio State and almost beat them.
Well, yeah.
Exactly.
You're right.
And that's-
I'm just saying,
Indiana
Ohio,
beat
Indiana almost beat them too.
Yeah.
And,
So, I mean, it
you
goes
know,
both ways.
Michigan State blew out Indiana, if you will, I mean, with a dominant fourth quarter. But I still think, you can't ask me that today because I need to see how Michigan State comes out of the bye, how healthy they are. I need to see them win on the road in Nebraska, first of all. If they can't win on the road in Nebraska, they're no chance in
Did
Columbus.
they announce times for that game yet?
7 o'clock, I believe, ESPN,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken. But you got to beat Nebraska before you can get to Ohio State in that showdown. But I think if anything, I would go with the card is stacked for Michigan State this year against Ohio State. The way that it was stacked for Ohio State against Michigan State last year. Ohio State's still bitter from the Big Ten loss.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lot of returning guys back. They had the more motivation as Michigan State was kind of already like, well, you know, we're pretty great. Everyone keeps telling us we're pretty great. And this year, everyone's telling Ohio State, oh, you guys are pretty great. You haven't beaten anybody, but you're pretty great.
Yeah.
And you got patted on the back all summer long. You got to carry the trophy around. There's a different sense of,
The mentality has switched.
yes, there's a different sense of drive when you're the champion.
Yep.
And then there is when you're not.
Yes.
And when you've been taken, your goals have been taken away from you,
Yeah.
that's
When you're
motivation for the other side.
When you're hunting, it's totally different. You're dialed in. You're trying to accomplish something. And then when you're being hunted, you're just like, okay, just kind of sidestep this, sidestep that.
And I think we've
what it is.
seen that with Michigan State a little bit this year with some of these lesser opponents, if you will. I mean, I think we've noticed them not beating teams like they should, if you will. But that's because they are the hunted. And the hunter, and I was thinking about this on my way in today. I was thinking about they're getting everybody's best shot, but in the beginning of the year. I expect to see a little bit, and the teams that they have left are all still playing for bowls and stuff like that.
Right.
If you're playing Indiana at 2-6 in week 9, do you think Indiana's going to come out with the same firepower they did? Then they can get to 500 with a win over a top 10 team? No. Like, Rutgers is the same way. I mean, I'm not surprised that Rutgers kind of rolled over for Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
They just came back and beat Indiana, but again, they're still, I don't know. It's when you play teams also matters.
Also, what makes, you've seen this with the Michigan State game. What makes for interesting football is the styles that match up against each other. And I think the style of Ohio State, what Ohio State brings and what MSU brings, it's going to make for one hell of a football game. And it will be a bloodbath. And I think that Michigan State has enough guys up front that they're going to make it really hard for a guy like JT Barrett to sit there and just kind of unleash and run wild on you.
Well, I told you yesterday I think it's going to be a shootout. Like
Yeah.
80-something is the
Ohio
I
State
think would
Michigan
be
State game?
yeah.
Really?
It'll be a shootout.
I think it'll be a shootout too. I think
Really?
neither defense has proved that it's.
I think that secondary is kind of starting to kind of figure it out. I mean, they've been a bunch of, like 4 question marks back there, and I think they're starting to kind of figure
Mark
out what they
D'Antonio
are.
actually said that they went into the Michigan game without 5 of their original 8 defensive backs due to injury and
crazy.
loss.
You know what?
5 of your 8 on the depth chart are not playing in games halfway through your season.
I want to draw a special comparison between a team that I went on to win a national championship. There was that Auburn team where they won on just random fluky plays.
Kick 6.
Yeah, and they had a couple things go their way. They had some bad breaks early in the season that kind of went against them. And then somehow they got on a roll and they ended up going on and doing the darn thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this Michigan State team has a lot of that.
Yeah.
You had the fluky play with Michigan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Rangers mission 4.
Yeah, but Auburn lost that year in the national championship, I believe. That was
They did lose. They did lose
that
in
was
the national. That was 2013. It was the year that
Yeah.
Michigan State won the Rose Bowl,
Yeah.
and that was the year that everyone thought, well, if Michigan State, if they had to play off that year, Michigan State was
would've
playing
won.
the best
Yeah.
football. They would have probably won a national. I mean, it's speculation, but they would have had a chance to really win that.
Who did Auburn play that year? I can't remember.
Florida State.
Oh, that's right. Famous
Florida
Jameis.
State, famous Jameis. Florida State beat him.
Yep.
Crab King.
The Crab King.
That's right. So I think I think this team is really similar to that team that I think they can get there. I think they have enough to be able to do it. And I think they've overcome enough that in the long run, in the stretch of the season, that's going to add to that character. And they're going to be able to handle tough situations. They'll be able to go in against an Ohio State who, as you said, basically it's been cream puff theater for what, the last 8 weeks. And everybody sat there and rubbed their shoulders and massaged their backs.
You're great. I think the thing that Michigan State has is I think that they, not to say JT Barrett isn't a special quarterback, but he's not the type of special quarterback that you get with Connor Cook. I mean, Connor Cook is the winningest quarterback in the game right now.
Right.
In the college game. And his numbers aren't going to, and I was just about to say, why isn't he a Heisman contender? Because he just doesn't put up the numbers necessary to win a Heisman trophy. However you want to discuss that. But the guy's 32-3 as a starter. I mean, he's an unbelievable leader and winner. And in crunch time, the guy can make plays.
He gets it done.
We saw it in big games against TCU. When he wasn't even really the starter. I mean, that was the year that he kind of took the reins over from Maxwell after that disastrous 2012 season. He comes in, guides this team to a Rose Bowl, wins the Rose Bowl against the Stanford team that was really good that year. Same thing. Last year, down 20, Baylor comes back, makes the throws. Guys make the catches, makes the plays. I think that you're right. I think that there's a scent, a whiff, if you will, of destiny in the air with this Michigan State team this year. And I think the bye week came at a perfect time for them to take the week off, get healthy, come back, and then focus on a challenge, not a cream puff, not a challenge. You have to go to Nebraska and win against the Blackshirts on a night crowd in front of a national TV audience. That's a challenge. Then you got to come back and prepare. So there shouldn't be anybody looking in that locker room. Oh man, we got Ohio State coming up, because you do that, Nebraska will catch you, and then everything's.
And I think it helped too, playing that Indiana team who, they're not great, but they proposed a challenge.
They're good. I think that's a good offense. I think it's the best offense in the Big Ten.
I think it was good to play them after Michigan. I don't think they're all that. You're right. Maybe
numbers-wise,
yes, but I think it was good to play them after Michigan. That way, they sat there. They had to come back. They had to be dialed in. You don't have those slip-ups that Michigan State used to have. Those get really high moments. Then you have that.
I think we can. I think we can take. But I think we can take that out completely now. D'Antonio's now 8-1 over the last 8 years, or 7-1 now. I think he is in games after the Michigan game, and the one time he did lose was to Ohio State.
Right.
So there is no more. You're right. Back when we were kids, that was the thing. But for the last decade, I mean, for most kids, most of the viewers who are 18 years old right now, they don't know anything otherwise than Michigan State winning games after Michigan.
Well, and I think more kids are growing up Michigan State fans now than Michigan fans.
For now,
yeah. Question from Harrison: how does Harbaugh rate as a head coach in college? I think he will win a national title in 4 years. I think he has a chance to get Michigan to a college football playoff next year. Has a chance.
Are we asking how he rates
the quarterback next year?
Are we asking him how he rates as a coach, or if he gets
maybe in 2 years?
My question is about Harbaugh being a coach. Look, there's no doubt that his X's and O's abilities are great.
Yes.
What I think he lacks, and we saw that with the handling of the O'Neal punter after the game, is I think he still lacks his head coaching touch. If you will, that
ability to sit there and,
look, and Harbaugh's never going to change who he is, and nor should he. He's a fantastic coach, but when it comes down to some of those PR things, some of those things that are recruiting-based things, that you can't ignore that. And for him not to say, this is on me.
Yeah.
I didn't have everybody back in max protect. Our punter had nothing. I mean.
He threw Blake O'Neal underneath the bus,
he
then he backed it up.
Yeah, he did. And those are some of the things that, like, if I'm a recruit at home and I make a blunder, what if I drop a ball in the end zone to win a game? Yeah. What if I throw an incompletion? What if I throw an interception? What if I miss a block? Am I going to be the one that is thrown under the bus? And I'm not saying this is him in every occasion, because I do not believe that it is. But I think that we only have 6 games of evidence from Michigan.
Right.
So, or 7 games of evidence for Michigan, 5-2, yeah, 7 games of evidence,
and I think,
to know what you're going to get in those types of things. So, do I think he's a good head coach? Yes. Does he rate highly as a head coach in college? Yes. But there are some things that maybe dock him down a little bit, and I'm interested to see how, because kids talk. Y'all know that kids talk. Yeah. And if I'm a high school sophomore and I'm friends with a senior who's going to Michigan, and then in 2 years I'm making my decision, and I say, hey, Johnny, how did that? How do you like Michigan? He's like, man, they work me to a bone. I can't do this. Harbaugh is too tough on me. If you had another option, I say maybe. I'm not saying that would happen. Maybe he would, the other way around.
But see, I think that's why his whole scheme works in college rather than the pros, because they're getting players in and out every 3 to 4 years. And then going back to Harrison's question, I think Harbaugh's just a fantastic coach in general. I mean, you look at what he did in Stanford, and then he went to the pros, and he did the same thing in the pros. And what the heck was San Francisco thinking? Getting rid of him.
You've seen what happened. Right?
Yeah. Who's their coach now? Jim Thomas. Is that his name?
Yeah.
What the heck? I mean, they're horrible.
No, and you have more control in a college program because you're not paying these kids to come in, and they're not going to talk back to you. But that's what I mean when I'm talking about the recruiting-based element of it.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to get his guys, but there are some prima donna 5-star guys that are going to come to Michigan and go, I didn't sign up for this.
Well, absolutely.
I'm just letting you know, like, I'm out. And so if Harbaugh can do what he's done with the talent he has now, just think if he can get some guys who are eager to work with that type of talent, the way that the Stanfords have done it in the past, the way that USC could have done it in the past. I'm going to leave USC out of this one for today. But
let's not go there.
But I just think that, I see that may being a potential. I'm not saying it's going to happen, because I know Michigan fans are like, yeah, this guy just wants to bash on Michigan all day. No,
he's a top 10 coach in the NCAA. I think he's a top 10 coach in the NCAA, and I think he'd be hard to argue otherwise. I think he's going to be really good for Michigan. I think once he gets his system in there, and once he gets the guys that he wants in there, and gets it kind of running the way that he sees fit, I think it'll be a power, at least in the Big Ten, which then will, like we talked about before, it'll put you onto that national stage, and we'll see where he's at.
Message from Tom. Love the show this week. Thanks, Tom. Will MSU ever address the special teams? It's Lions-esque terrible.
Oh,
it is. It's really bad, and I think
there's no confidence in that kicking game whatsoever.
I'm reading between the lines here a little bit, because D'Antonio only says, we got to get it figured out. Here's what has to be figured out. Those kids have no confidence left. The punter, Hartberger, is back there shaking before the punt comes back. Poor Taylor Pepper, the long snapper, he's trembling because he's going, well, I don't get this snap back. Everyone's gonna watch me. And it's come to a point where it's like this bye week might be good enough to help them figure it out, because they don't have to do it. But I think the season is already too far gone. There's too much pressure on the line down the stretch for them to just completely figure it out. I think you kind of have to do the best you can with what you got the rest of the way.
I mean, I've never seen a team get near the red zone and just be like, all right, well, it's 4th and 1. We're going for it. And you need points. You need points. Like, you're not even going to try to kick. Like, that coaching staff has zero confidence in any of those kids right now.
Is that a downfall to them, though, going into the year? I mean, can you say this team's going to win the college football playoff?
Not with this special teams.
It's horrible.
No. I mean, and it's so funny and ironic. That's why there's that hint of just specialness in the air with this team, because the essence of, it's like Herbal Essence commercial. Like, it's like this team has a little bit of them winning that Michigan game on a special teams play is it's unjust for Michigan.
38-yard field goal to win the national championship.
Exactly. That would, but no, they'd kick a 54-yarder in like Jerry Dome or wherever the playoffs at this year. But like that's the type of things that kind of go your way. We got one more question. We got to wrap up here. Our time is coming to a close. But from Sterling, how does Adam think U of M will do against Ohio State this year?
I think they'll probably lose, but I think it's going to be a very competitive game. I think you see in the last 2 years when Hoke was coaching, those games were always kind of came down to that fourth quarter. So I think with Harbaugh in there, wearing a headset, knowing what's going on, I think it's going to be a very competitive game. I think it'll be close. I think Ohio State will win, though. I think they're a little bit more talented.
I think that'll be interesting to see, especially how it happens with Michigan State, playing them literally the week before, no bye week in between. It is
it's a tough stretch for Ohio State.
Yeah, it's a tough stretch for Ohio State and Michigan State. They bang people up, so Michigan could benefit from that a little bit going forward.
Yep.
All right, there it is. That is the WXYZ Sports Digital Lunch for this Monday. We appreciate you as always. We'll have this link up if you want to send this to your friends of anything that you guys liked. We'll put it on our website, WXYZ. We'll tweet it out, and you guys will be able to continue to comment, continue to watch this throughout the weekend and share. We'll do another one of these tapings next Monday. Adam, I think that you're a big hit, man. Might have to have you back here.
Hey, I appreciate it.
No problem, man.
This was a good time.
Follow them on Detroit Sports Podcast and check out all of their work they do over there. They do a great job with that. And we'll probably have you back here sooner than later to do this again. So have yourself a great week, and go green, go blue, go Lions, I guess. Pistons home opener Wednesday. There it is.
There you go.